If you want to change your life, it begins right here every single morning. There is a powerful skill that I want you to learn. It's simple, it's not easy, and here it is. When that alarm rings, you have got to get out of bed. Look, I know there's a million reasons not to get out of bed. Right now, this morning, I can think of a bunch. It's 40 degrees, raining, disgusting, cold, depressing outside. I feel tired. My bones feel heavy. I have a lot of work to do, and it's stressing me out a little bit. None of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters when it comes to changing your life is, can you keep a promise to yourself? Can you keep a promise to yourself when it feels uncomfortable? Can you keep a promise to yourself when suddenly you don't want to? Can you keep a promise to yourself when it'd be easier not to? That is the core skill that you need to change any area of your life. Because change doesn't require motivation, it requires discipline. You need the discipline to do what you said you were going to do. And I want you to think about this. When you set an alarm, setting an alarm the night before is an act of making a promise to yourself. Setting an alarm, which I do, I get up between 6:15 and 6:45 every day. I am making a promise to myself that I am going to get up when that alarm rings. And if I can't keep a promise to myself because I don't feel like it, I'm cranky, I'm not a morning person, whatever the hell your excuse is, you're not going to be able to keep promises to yourself in any area of your life where you feel uncomfortable, where it's easier to avoid conflict, where you succumb to your excuses, where you soothe yourself instead of pushing through. And I mean this. All change happens the same way, with discipline. All change begins with the decision to change. All change begins with making and keeping promises. So regardless of what you're working on, if you're working on boundaries, if you're working on saying no, if you're working on pushing yourself through discomfort, you can start to practice the skill of showing up for yourself no matter what by simply setting the alarm the night before for when the time you actually need to get up. And when that time comes and that alarm rings and it's time to keep that promise, no matter what you're feeling, your number one job is to keep that promise to yourself. You start to practice this skill of setting the alarm and looking at it as a promise that you're making to yourself. And when that alarm rings, not succumbing to your excuses or your feelings of discomfort, but actually getting up and keeping that promise, you start to do that, your whole life will change. And the reason why is all change is the same. It's about making and keeping small promises. And the more that you do it in one area of your life, the easier it's going to be for you to do it in any other area of your life. Trust me, it's exactly how I've changed my life. I started here. Alarm rings, get out of bed, start your day, go.
Look, we all procrastinate. We avoid the things that we know that we need to do, and then we spend the rest of the day beating ourselves up. It's amazing. Actually, it sucks, doesn't it? So how do you stop procrastinating? Oh, simple. Just nail yourself to a chair. That's what you do. You tell yourself no booze until you get it done. That works. No, it doesn't. The reason why these things don't work is because most of us don't even understand what procrastination is. I know I certainly didn't. The reason why you procrastinate is not why you think. Procrastination has nothing to do with work. Procrastination is a stress reliever. That's right. It's a tool that you use to give yourself relief from stress that you feel. And the stress that you may be feeling right now might be stressed about money. You might be stressed about your health. Maybe you're stressed about something going on at work or about a relationship that you're in. And the way that this relates to procrastination is you're stressed out, you got work you know you need to do, but instead of doing it, you go online or you watch the highlights of last night's game or you waste an hour looking at Facebook. And when you do that, when you avoid work, it makes you feel good, but just for a minute. See, this is where we get procrastination all wrong. A lot of people think procrastination is about willpower. It means that you're lazy. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about your stress. That's why your work ethic or discipline, that's not going to solve this either. The key to stopping procrastination, number one, is understanding what it is. It's a way that you deal with stress. And number two, it's about 5-second decisions that stop the cycle of procrastinating. Because when you change your decisions, you're going to change everything. And here's how you're going to use the 5-second rule to do it. When you catch yourself procrastinating, or you feel yourself starting to avoid what you need to do, use the rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, activate your prefrontal cortex, and then acknowledge. Acknowledge that you feel stressed out. That's the first piece. Then you're going to use the 5-second rule to just get started. That's it, for 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Force yourself. I'm stressed out. I get it, but I'm going to work for 5 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, sit down and get started. After you've worked for 5 minutes, give yourself a break. Watch all the cat videos you want. I don't really care. The point here is that this is a way that you can use the 5-second rule in combination with research about beating procrastination that puts you in control of your decisions. Stacy found that when she used the 5-second rule to improve her relationship with herself, there was an amazing result. She stopped procrastinating. In her words, your rule has helped me grow in ways I never thought possible. I no longer procrastinate on anything. And the same is going to be true for you. Because when you understand that procrastination is something that you do when you're stressed, and you also understand that the secret to beating procrastination, which is a habit, is to just get started, now you can use the 5-second rule to leverage all the research that will help you end the habit of procrastinating once and for all. To learn more about the science behind why this works, why just getting started is the key, and all of the science behind it, I want you to read chapter 11 of the 5-second rule book. And it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at your local bookstore. Do you know how often you hesitate and stop yourself? All day long. There's actually a neurological reason why change is so hard. Your brain is designed to stop you from changing. Let me explain. You see, change requires you to do things that are uncertain, scary, or new. Your brain is designed to protect you from doing things that are uncertain, scary, or new. What's your brain's favorite way to protect you? To trap you in your head by making you overthink. I've studied and interviewed the leading researchers in psychology and human behavior, and what they've taught me is that the moment you want to change, break a habit, or do something hard or scary, and you hesitate, your brain goes to work to stop you. Now, there's all kinds of fancy names for this. Cognitive biases, the paradox of choice, the psychological immune system, the spotlight effect. I could name hundreds of them. You don't need to know the fancy names. You just need to know one simple fact. There is a system in your head that is stopping you every step of the way. And the 5-second rule is the only tool that you need to beat it. So how does the 5-second rule beat the system in your head? There are two explanations. First, I'm going to give you the simple one, then I'm going to explain the science. At its most basic level, the 5-second rule is a tool that helps you take action. It gets you out of your head, and that's the secret. You've got to stop thinking and start living before the system in your head has a chance to stop you. Now let's talk about the science. The 5-second rule leverages proven principles in modern psychology, and there are literally hundreds of examples that I could point to, but in this video we're just going to focus on 5 of them. First, let's talk about 2 concepts, one called locus of control, the second called a bias toward action. So a locus of control is a foundational principle in psychology. You should Google it. Back in the day, researchers figured out that there are basically 2 kinds of people. People that believe that they're in control of their lives, and folks that believe that life is just happening to them and they're a victim of whatever might happen. Now, when you look at these 2 types of people, people that have an internal locus of control, a belief that they're in control of their lives, they're happier, They're more successful, more productive. So the question becomes, how do you create an internal locus of control in yourself? The answer is simple. It's called a bias toward action. So a bias toward action is a psychological principle that means you're the kind of person that has a bias toward taking action instead of a bias toward thinking. How do you create a bias toward action? You guessed it, the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is a tool that will teach you how to take action. And over time, as you use it, you not only learn how to take action, you become the kind of person that operates with a bias toward taking action. And when you take action over and over and over on your instincts, on your desires, on your commitments, guess what you get? You build an internal locus of control. You become the kind of person that believes that you're in control of your life because you're proving it to yourself, one 5-second decision at a time. Let's move on to topic 2, behavioral flexibility. So just a few years ago, scientists thought that our brains stopped growing at the age of about 25. What we now know is that your brain never stops growing. We have the ability to learn new things throughout an entire lifetime. We call this behavioral flexibility. One of the things that's exciting about the 5-second rule and that we see from people all over the world is that when they utilize the rule over and over and over again, they not only create immediate change in the moment with a 5-second decision, but that over time, as they repeat the new behavior, whether it's speaking up in meetings more or it is pushing yourself to exercise over and over, that you actually create new habits and become an entirely different person. This is what your brain is designed to do in terms of its neural pathways and the way that new neural pathways can develop. Every time you use the 5-second rule and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, activate your prefrontal cortex and shift your behavior, you are not only creating immediate behavior change, over the long run, thanks to behavioral flexibility, you're creating lasting behavior change. The third principle is do good, be good. Now, this is a principle that I first learned about from legendary psychological researcher and University of Virginia professor Timothy Wilson. Basically, it means that you can't think your way to being happier or better. You actually got to do something. Now, this do good, be good philosophy dates all the way back to Aristotle, and it's based on the belief and now the proven technique that in order to change, you can't think your way to being more positive. You've got to do things, you got to act, and then your mind will follow. What is the 5-second rule? It's a tool that will help you stop thinking and start doing. Do good, be good, and then your mind will follow. The fourth principle, and that's the golden rule of habits. Now, I could spend 2 or 3 hours just talking about habit research, and whether you read Charles Duhigg's best-selling book or Gretchen Rubin's book on habits, or you watch a number of TED Talks, all researchers believe that habits come down to one golden rule, and that's this. You can never change the things that trigger you. You can't control your urges or how you might feel, but you can always choose how you behave. If you want to break a habit, once you have a habit, it's always going to be encoded in your brain. The only way that you can break it is to replace it with new behavior. There's also something in the research around habits called a starting ritual. A starting ritual is a repeated behavior that you adopt in order to trigger a new habit. The 5-second rule is so incredibly powerful when it comes to breaking old habits and adopting new ones because, number one, the 5-second rule and counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is a starting ritual. It will interrupt the old behavior pattern and it will trigger a new one. The 5-second rule over time, and this is really cool, actually becomes the new pattern of behavior. Instead of stopping yourself with self-doubt or blowing things off or overeating, you have a new pattern of behavior. You catch yourself, you gain control, you have confidence, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you do the thing that you know you want to do. And finally, the principle called activation energy. Now, activation energy is something that was first introduced into the field of human behavior and psychology several decades ago by a rock star professor at the University of Chicago that studied a state of flow. His name was Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he was one of the first really to study human behavior, human performance, and he coined this term activation energy. He actually borrowed it from chemistry. And it's a term that describes this phenomenon. In order to start any kind of chemical reaction, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to create that initial spark. A lot more energy to start it than to keep it going. There's a direct correlation to you and me. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to just get started? How hard it is to get to the gym? How hard it is to get out of bed? How hard it is to put down the bottle when you go to pour a second drink and you know you shouldn't? That feeling, how hard it is to get started, this is what Mihai's talking about. You need activation energy to start the chain, to start to sit down, to start to get out of bed, to start to walk out the door. That's the key to creating any kind of change. This activation energy inside of you that causes the initial boom. And then what do we hear over time? Once you start, there's a chain reaction, and that allows you to keep going. So, what's this have to do with the 5-second rule? Freaking everything. The 5-second rule creates activation energy in you. The 5-second rule is how you activate change inside of you. It is a tool. When you start counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you awaken your prefrontal cortex. You begin the process of changing. You push yourself in a new direction. That first push, that's going to be the hardest. Once you get moving, it gets so much easier. So those are just 5 psychological, scientific principles that explain the power of the 5-second rule. So today's training is all about the anxiety, the overwhelm, the fear that so many of you feel based on the belief that you have run out of time, that you don't have enough time, that the time for X, Y, or Z, to go and be a veterinarian, to go to medical school, to launch that business, to leave your wife or husband that you can't stand anymore, to do whatever it is that you've always thought about doing or you've been thinking about doing, that you've somehow convinced yourself that you don't have enough time. And I'm here to tell you that is complete and utter BS. You are in control of the one thing that everybody cares about, that everybody complains about, and everybody's trying to steal from you, and that is your time. And in fact, if you're worried about not having enough time, let me tell you something that I know about you. You're not using your time effectively. You're not being deliberate about how you're spending your time. And the problem isn't time and whether or not you have enough of it. The problem is you're not being completely selfish, deliberate, and just in control of how you're spending it. You're letting other people distract you. You're letting your negative beliefs distract you. And so that's got to stop today. Because here's the truth. Whether you're 70 or you're 77, you have plenty of time to start working toward the things that you care about. And what's so interesting is I'm wearing a shirt right now. Don't you love this shirt? I love this shirt. It's made by a woman named Renee, what's her last name? Bazzetti, here in Seattle. And I love her story. Mandy and I were just over. She hand makes these shirts, and I had no idea what her backstory was. She left her husband at the age of what, 46?
44, yeah.
At the age of 44 with two kids.
Court for 2 years.
She left her husband at the age of 44, had 2 kids. She was in court for 2 years. She literally went from being in her home overnight to literally moving in the middle of the night to her own apartment. And she had no idea what she was going to do. And she just told us, she said, at the age of 46, her attorneys told her only 1% of women actually find the gumption to leave a situation like the one that she was in. And most women don't leave because they don't know what they're going to do. They figure, oh my God, I'm so old. I don't have time to figure this out. What am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. Like the same kind of anxiety. Well, she left, and she told us that the best thing that ever happened to her is that her husband kicked her rear end in divorce court. And she literally left that proceeding with just about nothing. And so she was forced to figure out, what am I going to do with the rest of the time that I have? I'm 46 years old, and there's plenty of women out there and men out there that think, oh my God, at the age of 46, I don't have enough time left. Are you kidding me? I'm 50. I'm just getting started. As far as I'm concerned, I've got the rest of my life to figure out what I want to do and to work towards what I want to do. And so she basically, for 3 years, started working on making a shirt. It was the thing that she was interested in. And so this is the most important thing I need you to understand. Telling yourself you don't have time, it's a habit. Telling yourself you don't have time is an excuse. If you're telling yourself that the time has passed for you to go become a veterinarian, that's somebody's comment that I saw today on Instagram. If you're telling yourself that the time has passed for you to build a business, that the time has passed for you to do whatever it is, here's what I know about you. You're just afraid. You're just afraid of taking the step. And it's a lot easier to use the excuse that you don't have time, because if you tell yourself you don't have time, guess what? You're not going to find the time, and you're not going to force yourself to make the time to make working on that dream a priority. You know, one of the things that I wear right now is my little My Intent bracelet, this little thing, and my word for the year is deliberate. And when it comes to time, you have to be deliberate, because you have plenty of time. It's a matter of whether or not you're being deliberate about how you're using it. And that's the thing that you have to stop. You got to stop giving your time away. You got to stop wasting your time with people you don't care about. You got to stop wasting time listening to the excuses from the past. They don't apply. You can make anything happen if you just start putting in the work. And that's going to require you to get deliberate about making the time to do the work. And you can do the work that you need to do to change your life 10 minutes a day. That's it. Start working 10 minutes a day. Start taking an online course. Start investigating going back to school. Start following people that inspire you around launching your own business. You have time. So stop with the habit of telling yourself you don't. Do we have any questions, Mandy?
Yeah, we do. From Diane on Facebook. It's a good one.
Diane on Facebook.
She wants to go to school to learn sign language to be an interpreter.
Great.
Her daughter's a junior in high school, and she wants to know if she should wait until her daughter
No.
graduates.
Okay, so she wants to know if she should wait until her daughter graduates to go back to school. Absolutely not. Let me tell you something, parents. The only way your kids are going to learn how to pursue their dreams and their goals is if you model it. Do you want your daughter to be the kind of adult female, to be a woman that puts everybody else's needs ahead of her? Do you want your daughter to start to think the same lies that we were all trained to believe, that there is a time to do certain thing and a right time? The only right time is now. The only right time to really push yourself to make a change is right now. And so what your daughter is going to learn when she sees you going back to school and she sees you managing your time so that you're focused on priorities that matter to you, is she's going to be learning the skill of doing it for herself. It's one of the best things that you could possibly do. My mother did this when I was in 9th grade. She opened up a retail store when I was in 9th grade. She opened up a kitchen retail store, and it was the coolest thing to see my mom pursuing something that was important to her. It was the coolest thing to see my mom launch her own business and to realize, wow, you know, I want to be that kind of person. And I can be a great mom, and I can also have a business. And the way your kids learn that kind of thing is they watch you do it. I think about your brain as being in two modes. Two modes to your brain that you need to know about. There's autopilot. We've all experienced that. You know, you drive to work and get there and you're like, oh, who drove the car? Oh my God. Like, I don't even remember driving the car here. Yeah. Well, you did, Lewis. You drove the car. But the thing is that you were in the mode of your brain that's called autopilot. Well, what is autopilot? Autopilot is the interior part of your brain. You'll hear neuroscientists and psychologists talk about the basal ganglia. Very important thing to understand is that there's a part of your brain that its entire job is basically to execute your habits. Habits, big fancy word, means something very simple. Behaviors that you repeat without even thinking about it. When you pull your pants on in the morning, I guarantee you either put your left or your right leg in first. And you have to stop and think about which one it is, don't you? But not when you're putting your pants on.
Right, exactly.
Because that behavior is what researchers call a habit loop. It gets encoded as a closed loop system right here. Now, the problem for most of us is that half of the day we're on autopilot. And that's not me making a guess. That's what researchers that study habits and study psychology say. That half of your day, you're basically kind of checked out and you're on autopilot. And when you're checked out and you're on autopilot, any behavior pattern that you repeat can take over. And guess what are behavior patterns that we repeat? Thinking patterns. So self-doubt, worry, procrastination, overthinking, analysis paralysis, fear. Those are all thinking patterns that are habits. One of the most important things that I want people to understand is that you're actually not a worrier. You have a habit of worrying. Big difference. You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. And when you understand that any behavior pattern, whether it is a thinking pattern like you doubt yourself all the time, or you get trapped upstairs noodling everything and you can never get started, or whether it's a behavior pattern like you drink too much, or you snap at your kids, or you micromanage your team. Every one of those behavior patterns and thinking patterns can actually be interrupted and replaced using science. Now, let's talk about the second part of the brain. Drive. That's this puppy right here. This is what you want. This is your prefrontal cortex. Drive is the mode where you're in charge of your thoughts, okay? It's where you are fully awake, you are present, and you are driving your thoughts and actions. When you're doing that, your prefrontal cortex is active. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that you need in order to learn new behavior, in order to do something difficult, in order to do something uncertain, in order to do strategic thinking. So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm a righty. If I were to try to write with my left hand, Lewis is going to torture me and tie my hand behind my back and make me do this. I could do it. It would look like I was writing with my foot. And if Lewis came up to me and said, "Hey, Mel, you want some bulletproof coffee?" I'd be like, "Lewis, I'm trying to concentrate. I can't do this." My prefrontal cortex would be el fuego because it is firing on all cylinders to communicate to my hand new behavior. So the thing that's cool about that is that you can use a simple trick. The moment you feel yourself hesitate, the moment you've got one of those moments where you know that you need to, this is that moment that Lewis talks to you about where you got to step outside of your comfort zone and you've got to lean into your passion and you've got to really take some risks and you got to feel the fear and you got to do it anyway. That's the moment where you just woke up and now you got a decision to make. Are you going to drift back into the habits or are you going to awaken your prefrontal cortex and drive forward and focus and do something new? And so the work that I've been doing and speaking about is all about the 5-second rule, which is a trick that I invented by mistake that helps you manually switch, no joke, your brain. It turns off and interrupts the part of the brain that is where all your habits and your behavior patterns are encoded, and it awakens your prefrontal cortex, which in 5 seconds flat allows your brain to help you change. And so, anyway,
I love it.
I was rambling on and on because you went on this thing about how your patterns can be destructive and nobody teaches us, and that's absolutely right. And what I want everybody to get out of this conversation between us is that you cannot control how you feel. You cannot control what triggers you, and the fact that you may rise up with anger, you may rise up with self-doubt, you may have anxiety, fill your body, but you can always control what you think and how you behave. And we spend way too much time trying to focus on manipulating how we feel about things and not enough time practicing the skills of controlling your behavior and your thoughts.
Because if you can control your behavior and your thoughts, then the way you feel will be different.
100%. And a lot of us are sitting around waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel courageous, waiting to feel confident, waiting for the right time. And that's not ever coming. Ever. Ever. You're not going to change your life up here. You only change it through action. And so to me, I did this interview with your friend Tom, and we talked about how motivation is garbage, and somebody memed it and went crazy. And so the point that I was trying to make is that motivation is great if you feel motivated, but it's garbage, and it's a losing bet to wait to feel ready. Because your body's not designed that way, and neither is your brain. And so I want everybody to understand that, first of all, you can't control the things that trigger you and the fact that you're going to feel afraid and you're going to feel doubt and you're going to feel uncertain. But you can always interrupt that feeling and take control in the moment and actually shift what you're thinking and shift how you behave.
Yeah. And, the bigger the dream, the more fear you're going to have. Even if you
Totally.
feel like you've conquered the fear of something, in order to grow, you've got to take on some new challenge. And there's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be some stress, or there's going to be some worry, or there's going to be some ego checking, and there's going to be some identity crisis.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be this fear that could arise. Always. I mean, do you feel like once you'd mastered this that you have no more fear?
Me?
Yeah.
No, the fear still comes, but I have 100% control of what I think and do. Right. So one of the things that is important for me to put on the table is that a lot of times, people look at where you are now. And so they'll see me on television, or they'll see that TED Talk, or maybe you'll be in an audience of 20,000 people in the American Airlines Center, and I'm on stage, and you're like, wow, that chick must have just been more than confident. I hate her. The fact is, that's not at all how I was. When I was 19, I started having crazy panic attacks. And they got so bad that I took medication, and medication was a godsend for me. I took Zoloft for 2 decades. When I had our first daughter, who is now 17 years old, the postpartum depression was so bad that they put me on Ativan, which turns you into a zombie, and I could not be left alone with her. So when it comes to self-doubt and to how we can torture ourselves with our thoughts, boy, have I lived that nightmare. And as I started to use the 5-second rule, which we're going to get into, and everything about my life changed, because when people first learn the rule, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start using the rule to push yourself to do things that are annoying. You're going to push yourself to get up on time. You're going to push yourself to work on your business plan. You're going to push yourself to make calls that are scary. You're going to push yourself to get to the gym. You're going to push yourself to speak up more at work. You're going to push yourself to put the booze down. Behavioral. And then you're going to start to actually use it to change the thinking patterns that are self-sabotaging. So I, 4 years ago, wondered, as I started to see myself go from facing bankruptcy to building a figure business. What happened for me is I started to say, okay, this is a really cool little trick to bring out the most powerful side of you, but can I use this to actually cure myself of anxiety? And the answer is yes, you can. And 4 years ago, I went off Zoloft and I started using the 5-second rule, which I'm going to explain in 1 second, to interrupt the patterns of worry and self-doubt, which, by the way, anxiety is nothing more than the habit of worrying, spiraling out of control. And body feelings triggering now the habit of obsessive worrying that turns into anxiety and then kind of escalates to panic. I started using the 5-second rule to interrupt my thoughts every time I would feel that kind of worry kick in. And because the prefrontal cortex is awakened when you use it, your mind is now ready to take on a totally different thought. It's a very different strategy than just trying to switch the channel on what you're thinking, because you're actually inserting the step that nobody talks about, which is switching the gears in your mind so that your mind can actually take and believe the thinking.
It's the new year. It's January. As we're recording this, is early January. This episode will come out next week. And there's a lot of people that are setting New Year's resolutions right now. There's a lot of people trying to change their habits. And a lot of people have this idea that all they need to do is get motivated to start, and then they'll be able to achieve their goals. And I know you don't agree with that. So why?
Let me frame it this way. You just said that, all these folks are starting the new year, right? And they are setting goals and they're trying to change habits, and that all they need in order to make this stick is motivation. And, here's the thing that I want to say. Number one, there are 2 kinds of motivation. There is intrinsic, the internal motivation, and extrinsic, the motivation that comes from outside of you. And I think, number one, most of us don't understand what type of motivation we're talking about when we say we just need motivation. You see, extrinsic motivation works every time. If I were screaming at you, you'd be very motivated to either get out of the room that I were in or to do what I say and comply. That is extrinsic motivation. If the police are chasing you, you will be motivated to run away from them, most likely. That is extrinsic motivation, right? If you have a child who falls into a swimming pool, you will be motivated to jump into that swimming pool to save them. That is extrinsic motivation. It is an outside event hitting you like a lightning bolt and shocking you into motion, either because you care about something that's happening, like your child in a swimming pool, or you're scared, and so your instinct is to run or freeze, or because you are forced to by somebody like me screaming at you. So extrinsic motivation works all the time. The trouble that we all get into is that we think that intrinsic, internal motivation, the desire and the energy and the effort required to break a habit, to learn a new one, and to create new skills and practice new skills in your life. The mistake that you are making is thinking that that energy, that desire, and that output is somehow going to magically appear. And I am here to tell you, internal motivation does not exist when you need it. You felt the amount of motivation internally that you're going to feel all year when you wrote down your goals. Okay? You felt the internal motivation, you had the desire, you took the action, you wrote down the goals. Great. But that's not going to get you to change the behavior. And so I want everybody to wake the fuck up and realize that you're not going to feel like doing what you need to do to change your life. That if you want to change your life, it requires effort, it requires consistency, and it also requires something most of us don't talk about in the personal development space when it comes to changing habits, and that is fucking compassion for yourself. You have had the same shitty self-talk for decades. You are not going to change it in one day. You have hit the snooze alarm every morning for the last 10 years. You are not going to break that habit overnight. You have been feeding your sadness with carbohydrates since you were 8 years old. You are not going to break that habit with one healthy meal. And so one of the most important aspects of changing your life is, number one, you got to realize you're always going to need to force yourself, push yourself to do what you don't feel like doing. That's number one. Number two, you're going to have to repeat that over and over and over and over and over again. What the research says is it takes 21 days of consistent effort to break the old pattern, but you need to repeat the 21 days 3 times in order to have the chemical, neurological, physiological loop lock into your mind, body, and spirit to make it part of your new default wiring. And so you got to understand, we're talking 66 days before it becomes kind of second nature. And finally, when you have a bad day and you stuff a potato chip in your mouth because you feel sad, or you scream at your kids because you get triggered, or you down an entire bottle of wine when you said you were going to do dry January, you must practice self-compassion. Because the major mistake that I see people making, Doug, is number one, they're waiting around to feel like it. And number two, the second that they do one bad day or they make one mistake, you chuck all your positive progress out the window and you go back to the way that you always used to do things. And one of the greatest skills ever is to go, okay, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I forgive myself. And today I'm going to do a little better. That's right. It. Mistake number one is that you think passion and purpose are the same thing. I hear those two words thrown around so much and swapped in and out of sentences that I need to say it is a major mistake to think that passion and purpose are the same thing. Because the fact is, they're completely different. And the other fact is, you need both passion and purpose in order to live an incredible life that you deserve to live. So let me unpack my simple way of thinking about passion versus purpose. So passion is something you feel. I think about passion as another word for energy. Passion is something you feel. Purpose, on the other hand, is something you do. Purpose is something you do. I'm going to distinguish passion and purpose at a secondary level. You ready? So passion is something you feel. Passion describes the energy that you feel. And the other cool thing about passion is for you. Passion is simply anything that makes you feel more energized in life. I'll give you an example. And I want you to think about what is something that brings passion into your life. And as you think of the thing that brings passion into your life, share it. Because when you share something that you're thinking, it always ignites and empowers and inspires somebody else that's watching this too. So for example, passion is for me. Passion is what I feel. Passion is the stuff that brings energy into my life. So here's my passion. You ready? I love to garden. I love to walk into a flower store. I love to savor a fabulous cup of coffee. I love and am passionate about watching stand-up comedy. I am passionate about hiking. I am passionate about, I'm actually passionate about the polar plunge challenge and doing cold exposure therapy. I'm passionate about getting together with our kids. I'm passionate about walks on the beach. I am energized by making plans to go somewhere. I am energized by cooking. All of these things that I'm listing are things that I do or things that I think about that infuse me with this energy. That's what passion is. And you need that in order to live an awesome life. And passion is so simple to bring into your life because passion is literally just about getting intentional, about filling your time with things that bring you energy. It kind of makes sense, right? That's all that passion is. And now that you understand this simple idea of what passion is, that it's something you feel, it's for you, it brings energy into your life, you now understand why people say, "Oh, I'm living my passion." I would never use that sentence because I think the accurate thing is I feel passionate about my work as a doctor. What they're saying when somebody says that is they're saying, I feel energized by my work. And if you are one of the 89% of people that feel stuck right now, here's what I know. If you look at your day-to-day and your week-to-week life, you are not doing anything that naturally brings energy into your life, positive energy. And a simple way to flip the switch and bring more passion into your life is to become intentional about making time to do the things. Like Marianne, she's passionate about running, designing, chilling with her friends, connecting with people, helping connect people in business, nature, sunrises, so many things. Even writing the things, did you guys notice? Even writing down what brings energy into your life actually makes you feel more energized. So that's what passion is. Purpose is something you do, and purpose is what you do for the world. Purpose is this anchor that you attach yourself to, and it is the thing that you do for the world. It's how you show up for other people. It is the reason why you're doing things. It's sort of like, I'm going to give you another example. We've got the anchor, because when you're connected to why you do what you do, you will not feel adrift, okay? But I'm going to give you another example about purpose. So have any of you ever had a situation where you're like near a body of water and you either have your dog or somebody else's dog, and that dog runs into the water or the pond or the river or the muddy stream or the swimming pool, and then they come out and they shake, 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 shake all over you, and the water spreads everywhere, right? I also feel that purpose is that stuff that naturally shakes off you and hits other people. So I, for example, in the exchange that you just saw with me talking with Brendan, when Brendan's around me and he's like the dog shaking wet, what you get hit with is his purpose of serving, right? It just flies from the guy because it's what he gives to the world. And when you understand that purpose is just why you're doing something and how you're showing up for it, and the way in which you uniquely do it, that's your purpose. That's it. Passion is for you. Purpose is what you give to other people. So mistake number one is that you think they're the same thing. You use the words interchangeably. You're not quite thinking about the difference and why both are so important. Now let's jump into mistake number two. Mistake number two, I've sort of hinted at already. Mistake number two is you think you're just going to bump into it. You think that purpose or passion just kind of happens. That's not true. The biggest thing that people don't realize, myself included, is that it's something you have to be super intentional about. That when you wake up every day, you have an opportunity to bring passion into your life. You have an opportunity to decide how you're going to show up with a sense of purpose today. And this lack of intentionality is the reason why you feel stuck. It's the reason why you feel adrift. If you're on autopilot, if you're just going through the motions, if you're accepting good enough, if you're just barely surviving, you're not anchored to anything. And you're not going to just sort of float into what's meant for you. You need to have what I call a wake-up moment. You got to have a wake-up moment and go, I'm stuck and I'm sick of it. And being stuck, by the way, is a great thing. It's a wake-up moment because you just woke up and were like, you know what? I'm not feeling connected to something deeper here. I need to fix this. And so mistake number two is thinking you're just going to bump into it, that somehow staying on autopilot, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to happen. You got to make a decision that you're going to become intentional about infusing your day-to-day life with more passion, and that you're going to become intentional about aligning your focus, your attention, and your actions on something that you value. That's how it's going to happen.
So talk to me a little bit about, kind of what you've learned in terms of how we keep ourselves locked in these
this
cycles.
Is incredible. It's incredible. So the morning that I discovered this thing, I'll kind of unpack this because the first morning and the second morning, I know that you're going to take this like, boom, even deeper. So here we go, everybody, buckle up. So it's April 2020. And, I can't use my normal coping mechanisms. We're all in quarantine. So as I lose my dream job and my kids' college experience implode and they're grieving and upset and sad and I'm terrified for I'm scared for everybody and the frontline workers, and life is upside down and the anxiety starts to kind of roll back in. I can't run to Target. I can't go to the coffee shop. I can't distract myself by running to do a speech. I can't go see my friends. All of the busyness, by the way, which I now can see was a form of self-regulating stress and trauma. That if I'm on the run, I don't have to deal with the woman in the mirror. If I'm moving and the adrenaline is pumping, I don't actually have to sit and be with myself. Maybe I can just outrun this stuff. And so and even the genesis of the 5-second rule, the genesis was, if I move fast enough, if I launch myself out of that bed, maybe I won't be there when the anxiety hits. So even that was like a perfect illustration of just push through it, don't deal with it. It's a fast thing that has profound effect, but it doesn't hit the source of what's causing all of the hatred and the tension and the pain in the first place.
So I get out of bed, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I make my bed that morning so I don't crawl back into it. I feel exhausted, overwhelmed. We've all felt this before, whether you felt it during the pandemic or you felt it because you lost a job or somebody just says, I don't love you anymore, or you hate how you look. We've all felt this. I'm overwhelmed by my life. I'm exhausted. I can't face this. I get into the bathroom. I start brushing my teeth, and I immediately catch a glimpse of myself. And I think, oh my God, you look like hell. And then the habit starts that I really want us to unpack. Because every single human being I'm discovering has a habit that is so destructive and none of us are talking about because it's so subtle and it is so hard baked into your mind. And it's this. Every morning in the bathroom mirror, you either ignore yourself, which is a form of rejection, or you pick yourself apart and see all the things you need to fix or what you don't like. And this isn't, this is everybody. 50% of people are uncomfortable or will not look at themselves in the mirror.
I'll admit, I raised my hand. Took me a very long time to really, truly, and there's still discomfort there of looking at myself. And I used to tell myself, well, it's okay. I know how I feel in my body, and that's my marker. I feel good today, and that's all I need. I don't need to look at that mirror. Not really understanding that I was in that act of avoidance. Something felt very intimate, very vulnerable. Before I even got to then the criticism of myself, it just was for me pure avoidance. I didn't really care. I mean, I would need mirrors if I maybe put some makeup on. And outside of that, me and mirrors, I didn't have a relationship with them at all. Not knowing, again, I told myself the story of why I believed I wasn't looking at them until I dove down and unpacked it and understood that there was a discomfort there and still, like I said, remains for me.
Well, same for me. So I start picking myself apart. I feel my energy going down. And, the interesting thing, as I felt myself just getting so defeated, why'd you get up late? You haven't texted Nicole back. The dog's not walked. Like, I'm just like dragging. And all the research around emotional contagion. So do I. That this emotion and negative space is going to impact your productivity. And we know all this, but it's a habit. I've been doing this for 4 decades is how long I've been doing this as part of my morning routine. And so if you had walked in the bathroom that morning, I would have spun on a dime. I would have been like, Nicole, I know this is terrible. I'm so sorry you're going through this. You don't deserve this. But if anybody can face this, you can. What do you need? I would have lifted you up. I could not think of a thing to say. And here's the thing, I wouldn't have even believed it because it didn't match how I was feeling. And I don't know what came over. I honestly believe it was the universe, the divine source saying, all right, we're ready for this. Because it is so cheesy on its face. I'm literally in my underwear, alone with the dog at my feet, literally having the dark night of the soul. And I lift my hand to my tired reflection because the woman in the mirror needed a high five. And in that moment, lightning didn't strike. It wasn't like the heavens opened and, purple light came in and, whoa, that's not what happened. As you know, too, you kind of have this awakening and then it's like, now what? No, but I felt this shift, and I can explain the science. It's crazy. I felt this shift and the energy wasn't lovely. The energy was more like, oh, come on. I laugh. Oh, Mel, come on. It's like, get out there. You're safe, you're fine. I kind of shoved myself. I didn't even think, I didn't say it. It was a shift.
How do you get past competing with your old self? That's where I'm at. Where I used to be, because I had a head injury and had things happen. So I'm trying to get back to me. Does that make sense?
Yes. However, since you have a head injury,
right,
you are a new you.
Yeah, and that's my fight.
Well, hold on though. Hold on. You have to accept, forgive, and be compassionate with where you are. You have not mourned what happened.
Yeah, it's true.
Like you really are living your life like this shouldn't be, this isn't supposed to be, I'm supposed to get back to where my brain used to be. And what I'm here to tell you is you will free yourself up the moment you are willing to accept what happened.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how to do it. It's really hard. You have to stop wishing things could be different.
Yeah, and that makes it so hard because it's like what you told the other girl about setting like boundaries and rules for yourself. That's what I've been doing. Like, I don't have alerts, I have Post-its, I have things so I kind of don't fall into that trap, and keep myself kind of focused.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like a memory problem.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's not, so you just have an issue with your brain and memory. That's it. That's it. And so you need to adapt so that you just have systems that keep the things that your brain won't remember front and center. But what will really change your life? Hey, it's Mel Robbins. I'll get you right back to that video. But first, you got to know I have a 3-part free training program. It's called The Reset. Seriously, it's free. I coach you. Amazing. If you're tired of having self-doubt hold you back, let Mel Robbins inspire and empower you. There's a workbook. It's incredible. The Reset. Write down this URL or hit pause and jump in because the link is in the caption below. All right, you in? Good. I can't wait to see you in The Reset. And now, back to the video. But what will really change your life is if you can get to a place where you can see or believe that someday you will understand why this is a blessing. Someday you will understand why this happened.
it just doesn't feel that way.
No, it doesn't. And one of the
Yeah.
reasons why it doesn't feel that way is because you're constantly telling yourself it shouldn't be this way.
Right. Well, I'm trying to get back to. I'm
You're
trying to
not-
get back to me.
But
You know what I mean?
you are right here. You are you with a brain that has trouble remembering.
Right.
That'd be like me saying, I'd like to go back to the pre-menopause. No. It's not happening.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, please, work on this mental space of saying to yourself, I want you to stop wishing things could be different. Doesn't mean that you deserve this. But acceptance and saying, this is the way that my brain is. And now I have an opportunity to embrace that, to be compassionate with myself. I'm actually very proud of you. You have systems, you have no alerts, you have no Post-it notes that allow your mind to work.
That has really helped. It does. The systems
Yes.
have helped me tremendously.
Yes, and I also think there's a bigger impact for you to make because there are other people that have experienced what you're experiencing and you're further down the road than they are. And so maybe what you're going to discover is that you learn something about yourself when you're more compassionate and you're more open that this has happened. Like there's no reason why in sales meetings you can't be like, no, I just want everyone to know I was in a car accident and I've got this thing with my memory, so if I forget something, I'm looking at my notes because that isn't working really. And people are like, oh wow, that happened to my sister. Like just accept where it is, be forgiving and compassionate with yourself as you move forward, and believe that this is all happening for a reason and something amazing is in store for you.
I appreciate that.
I mean it. I believe it.
It's
Because-
just convincing myself now.
Well, every day write about
right.
it in a journal.
I agree.
Because what you're convincing yourself is there's something wrong with me and I got to get back to how I was. And if I don't do that, I'm broken and I'm never going to be successful and I'm not going to be happy. And when that's what's in your head.
Exactly the conversation. Exactly.
So tell me the opposite of that conversation. I want to hear it come out of your mouth.
I don't even know because it's been playing so many times. I mean, to me, it's like trying to ignore the new person and trying to get back over there.
No, we got to ignore the old person. You got to decide who you're going to be now. Okay? So repeat after me.
Okay.
I am going to stop wishing
I'm going to stop wishing
this brain injury didn't happen.
this brain injury didn't happen.
I'm going to stop wishing the accident didn't happen.
I'm going to stop wishing the accident didn't happen.
I am going to accept my mind
I am going to accept my mind
and I'm going to move forward.
and I'm going to move forward.
And I'm going to be a rock star
And I'm going to be a rock star.
and I'm going to be happy.
And I am happy. That's one thing.
Great.
It's like, and I'm going to be happy and I am happy.
And I'm going to enjoy my life.
And I'm going to enjoy
And
my
the
life.
faster I accept that the accident happened
The faster I accept the accident happened
and I stop wishing that it hadn't,
and stop wishing that it hadn't.
I can look out the windshield of my car, not the rearview mirror.
I can look out the windshield, not the rear view mirror.
Every time you fight this accident and you fight and you tell yourself you need to go back, you're looking in the rearview mirror.
Wow, okay.
What did you just get?
No, it's true because it's like I'm not here. I'm back there where it happened. I feel like I died back there.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But you didn't. You didn't. You have a huge, amazing, beautiful life to live.
Thank you.
So every time you catch yourself looking back, I want you to catch it and go, oh, there I go again. No, I'm going to look out the windshield because that's the way you're going. I'm going to look at the road ahead because that's the road that you're going to travel. And I'm going to be damned if I'm not happy and successful and having fun, with or without my Post-it notes in my memory. You're
Yeah,
still.
Post-its everywhere.
See, here's the thing: you didn't die. You survived because you were meant to. And if you survived, it's because you're supposed to be here. And
I do believe that.
great, then prove it. Then prove it.
Okay.
Prove it by being happy. Prove it by looking ahead. Okay?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the advice. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.